or what, huh?
Paul Heyman has been behind some of the biggest stars and most important stories in modern wrestling. But his greatest achievement may be that he kept reinventing himself while the wrestling business around him changed. He helped turn ECW into something completely different from the wrestling fans were used to. He helped shape Brock Lesnar into one of WWE's most dominant attractions. He stood beside CM Punk during one of the most important periods of Punk's career. And years later, he became a central figure in the transformation of Roman Reigns. That's not one successful run. That's decades of influence. And there's something even more interesting about it. Heyman was rarely the biggest star in the room. He wasn't the one competing for championships. He wasn't the face of the company. Yet time and time again, he found himself standing next to the people who were. So what did Paul Heyman see that others didn't? How did a teenager obsessed with wrestling become one of the industry's most influential minds? To answer that, we have to go back to before ECW, before Brock Lesnar, and long before Roman Reigns. We have to go back to the beginning of Paul Heyman's obsession with professional wrestling.
But just because you're paranoid doesn't mean the whole world's not against you. I walk.
Paul Heyman was born in 1965 in the small historic town of Scarsdale, New York, to a Holocaust survivor mother and a personal injury attorney father. From an early age, Heyman was obsessed with wrestling. Not just the action, but the business behind it. By 14, Heyman had bluffed his way into Madison Square Garden as a ringside photographer. At 19, he launched his own wrestling radio show, using it to connect with insiders and build his name. Determined to be part of the industry, Heyman started taking photos at wrestling shows, sometimes sneaking into events or talking his way past security. He'd sell his pictures to magazines and use the access to network with promoters, managers, and talent. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave him a front-row seat to the inner workings of the wrestling world. But Heyman wasn't just a fan. He was a student of the game. He studied production, marketing, and promotion with the intensity of someone who knew he didn't just want to be around wrestling, he wanted to shape it. Before he ever managed a single wrestler, Paul Heyman was already laying the foundation for a career that would challenge and eventually transform the industry from the inside out. By the early 90s, Paul Heyman had made a name for himself behind the scenes, but he was looking for something more. That opportunity came in Philadelphia, where he was brought in as the head booker for a struggling promotion called Eastern Championship Wrestling. The company was floundering, and when its founder, Todd Gordon, stepped back from creative control, Heyman seized the moment. His vision was bold, unfiltered, and exactly what the industry didn't see coming. Heyman didn't just rebrand it, he rebuilt it from the ground up. He stripped away the cartoonish gimmicks of mainstream wrestling and gave fans something raw, real, and rebellious. Out went the polished production. In came blood, barbed wire, and brutal honesty. ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, was born. Heyman gave a voice to the outcasts. He pushed wrestlers like Taz, Sabu, and the Sandman, who didn't fit the mold elsewhere but thrived under his chaotic vision. Promos were unscripted, matches were unpredictable, and the fans, they were rabidly loyal. ECW didn't just break the rules, it rewrote them. And at the center of it all was Paul Heyman, the mad genius pulling every string. ECW may have started as the rebellious underdog, but under Paul Heyman's direction, it became a movement. The promotion didn't just entertain, it influenced the entire wrestling landscape. WWE and WCW began borrowing ECW's edgier style, faster pace, and more realistic storytelling. In many ways, ECW was the blueprint for the Attitude Era. But behind the curtain, things weren't as revolutionary. ECW was constantly fighting to stay afloat. Heyman was juggling TV deals, production costs, and unpaid talent, all while trying to compete with billion-dollar giants. He was a visionary, but not a businessman. By 2001, the money ran out. ECW filed for bankruptcy, and Heyman quietly walked away, later showing up on WWE commentary just months before Vince McMahon purchased the company's assets. ECW was dead, but its legacy was undeniable, and it had forever changed professional wrestling. Just when it seemed like Paul Heyman had done it all, he returned in 2012 with a new role that would define the next chapter of his legacy, the Advocate. Reuniting with Brock Lesnar, Heyman crafted one of the most dominant pairings in modern wrestling history. With Lesnar as the unstoppable force and Heyman as the voice, the duo tore through WWE's main event scene, breaking The Undertaker's legendary WrestleMania streak and redefining what dominance looked like. But this wasn't just about promos. Heyman elevated the art of storytelling on the mic. He blurred the line between reality and performance, cutting promos that felt more like courtroom arguments than wrestling hype. His words gave weight to every match, every moment. Whether it was selling Lesnar as a monster or building anticipation for a match, Heyman didn't just talk, you listened. And then came Roman Reigns. In 2020, Heyman shocked the wrestling world again by aligning himself with WWE's top star, reinventing Reigns as the cold, calculating tribal chief. The partnership flipped the dynamic. Reigns was now the voice, and Heyman the quiet advisor in the background. It was a masterclass in subtlety and evolution, proving once again that Heyman wasn't just relevant, he was still ahead of the curve. Decades into his career, Paul Heyman had evolved from disruptor to architect. From ECW chaos to WWE main events, he didn't just survive wrestling's shifting landscape, he shaped it.
Paul Heyman's career isn't defined by one wrestler, one promotion, or one era. It's defined by how many times he managed to stay ahead of the business. He saw something in ECW that others didn't. He understood how to present Brock Lesnar as more than just a powerful athlete. He understood how CM Punk's voice could become a weapon. And he helped give Roman Reigns a character that completely changed the direction of his career. That's the pattern. Paul Heyman doesn't just attach himself to successful wrestlers. He understands what makes them different, and then finds a way to make the audience see it too. And maybe that's what makes him a mastermind. Not that he was always right, not that every idea worked, but when professional wrestling changed, Paul Heyman changed with it. And after all these years, that's why his influence continues to be felt long after the camera stopped rolling. Because Paul Heyman didn't just become part of wrestling history. He helped shape it.
ECW are what?